How do you know if you've found a true spiritual master or guru? There's a lot of people out there who talk the talk, who walk the walk, but in my decades of searching and working with actually a number of spiritual teachers, I've learned a lot about who's the real deal and who's not, and how to tell the difference. In this video, I'm going to share with you the 6 signs of a true spiritual master or guru. Let's dive in. Hi there, I'm Lisa Engles-WITTER. I'm the creator of the Karma Clearing Process, and I help people just like you to claim their future by clearing their past. So be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I put out new videos every week. Let's go ahead and dive into today's topic, which is how to tell if you've found a true spiritual master or guru. So I want to begin first with making this distinction between a spiritual teacher and a true spiritual master or a guru. The ancient writings, teachings tell us that there are many gurus on earth who give us what is other than the self, but it's very hard to find in all the worlds a guru who actually reveals to us our self. So this is a fine distinction, and I think, in my personal experience, in my years and decades of being on the spiritual journey and working with different spiritual teachers, I've had enough experience at this point to be able to make and discern between who is a master teacher and who is a spiritual teacher. So let's make this distinction between who is a spiritual teacher and who is a spiritual master or guru. A lot of people can show up in our life as a spiritual teacher. In fact, you could basically say that any relationship that you're in that person is a spiritual teacher. It could be a parent, it could be a child, it could be a colleague, a partner, it could be a friend, it could be a pastor, a minister, a rabbi, a priest, it could be a saint, it could be a healer, it could be a therapist or a coach or a teacher. All of these people are our spiritual teachers because by the nature of relating, we have a karmic relationship with that person. And the nature of a karmic relationship is that it is there to give you a spiritual teaching. So in that sense, every person that shows up in our life is a spiritual teacher. But there is a distinction to be made between a spiritual teacher and a true spiritual master or guru, because there are very, very few true spiritual masters or gurus. So you may or may not know what the root of that word guru is. Gu, that first part of the word gu means darkness, and ru means destroyer of. So guru simply means the one who has the power to destroy darkness. So there are 6 things that I've discovered that distinguish a master spiritual teacher or guru from all of the other spiritual teachers that you might find out there. And this is really important, you guys, because you can go anywhere on Google, you can go anywhere on YouTube, right? And type in spiritual teachers, and a whole bunch of people will pop up, names that are famous that you know because they've written books and they have top Amazon bestsellers, and other people who might be, famous on the internet because they've built up a following, but that does not mean that they are necessarily a spiritual master. So hopefully this list of 6 things will give you some clarity and help you to be discerning in who you choose as your spiritual teacher. So let's begin. So number 1, a true spiritual teacher or guru's actions align with their teachings because they have a very high standard of moral conduct. So that's number 1. A true spiritual teacher or guru has a very high standard of moral conduct. They will never, ever impose their will on their students because they know that imposing their will actually creates more karma, and that would be in opposition to the purpose of a true guru who is here to destroy the darkness from the student. And the darkness is created by karma. So a true guru is allows the student to show up in what I would call a karma-free zone. They understand and will not impose their will on their students. A true, under this same heading of this high standard of moral conduct, they practice what they preach. I mean, this sounds obvious, right? A true spiritual teacher should practice what they preach, but it's not always behind the scenes. So there are many spiritual teachers out there who are working so much that they don't have the time to practice what they preach. They teach meditation, yet they don't have the time to do the meditation themselves. They teach loving kindness, but behind the scenes, they're not acting with loving kindness to their inner circle of disciples. So a true spiritual teacher, guru, who is acting in alignment with their morals, has a high standard of moral conduct, will practice what they preach. They also, under this piece, do not misuse sex as part of their teaching. So, for instance, Tantra has become huge, especially in the Western world, and there are a lot of tantric teachers out there, but Tantra has been completely misunderstood in the West to mean something that has to do with sexual energy, and it's not that at all. In fact, I practice, as part of my practice, there are many tantric practices that I use in my spiritual practice, and they have nothing to do with sex or sexual energy. So there's been this attachment of sex to Tantra, but this antinomian practice of sex in Tantra was only meant to be used by very, very advanced disciples who had cultivated advanced levels of consciousness first. So was the idea of an antinomian practice, like sexual practice, is that you're released by the grace of God from observing this particular moral law. But I want to clarify that this piece around Tantra has really been misused and abused in a power differential type of way. And any true guru will not be misusing sex as part of their teachings. They also, in line with moral conduct, do not use spiritual materialism to lure new devotees. In other words, what I mean is that there are spiritual teachers out there who sell material successes, like being successful in making money, or love and money and health, all of these things as paths to spirituality. While it's true that all of these things are outcomes, truly outcomes of a spiritual life, true gurus will not teach these things as the path to a spiritual life. They will actually teach from sacred text. So they're not going to be luring new devotees with seminars and workshops that cost hundreds or sometimes thousands of dollars, retreats that are based on spiritual materialism. All right, so that wraps up key point number 1, that a true guru has high moral standards and lives by those moral standards or code of ethics. All right, let's move on to number 2. So the second sign of a true spiritual master or guru is that they have what I would call a generational community of devoted disciples with no controversy. Now, of course, there's always going to be a few people who are disheartened, ex-disciples and those people who have left the path. But a true guru really doesn't have a large band of angry followers and isn't surrounded by controversy or constantly trying to prove that they've been wrongly accused by other people, you just are not going to see that around a true spiritual master, a true guru. So that is something that is a huge warning sign, a big red flag to look for. Does this person who's calling themselves a spiritual master or a guru, are they, clouded with controversy, or do they have a devoted community of disciples and have relatively zero or no controversy or very little, maybe a few disgruntled disciples, but other than that, there's no controversy. The third sign of a true spiritual master is that they are not limited to having a body. And this is a big, I think this is sort of, people say different things about this, but I know for myself, and I will give the example in just a moment, that a true spiritual guru or master does not have to have a body. They do not have to be living. They do not have to be in their body. If you think of people like Jesus or Buddha, people will say that they get transmission from Jesus Christ, and so he is a true guru, a true spiritual master who is not embodied anymore, yet who, a true disciple of someone like Jesus Christ, can receive transmission from this spiritual master. So the spiritual master does not have to be embodied. That is something that a lot of people like to say, oh, a true spiritual guru, your guru in this lifetime has to be embodied. It's not true. So, and my personal example of that is that I am a disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda, who has also passed away. He passed away before I was born, and I feel his transmission and his presence in my life every moment of every day because I'm connected with him in that way as a disciple. So in the presence of a spiritual master or guru, you will feel peace, you will feel harmony in their presence, and they don't have to be physically present with you. So a true liberated guru is not limited by their body. They know, or you have the experience that their presence is not because of their body, their physical presence. The fourth sign of a true spiritual master or guru is that they are egoless. And you won't always find this in all spiritual teachers. Again, I mentioned it just briefly before, behind the scenes of some of the biggest spiritual teachers around, you'll hear from the inner circle that, they have a bad temper, or they have ego, they have personality, which is totally fine if you, as a follower of that spiritual teacher, are aware of that and you aren't projecting your shit onto them and then expecting something else from that teacher other than what you're getting. Everybody has an ego, everybody has a personality, and spiritual teachers, like regular spiritual teachers, as we're making this distinction here, are no different than you and me. They have faults, they have flaws, and that's totally fine. But if you're thinking that they are a guru or a spiritual master, then you might be, jaded, so to speak. So a true spiritual master, a true guru, once you've found one, is egoless. They don't claim enlightenment. They don't make claims about their spiritual development. It's just apparent by who they are and how they walk in this world. They tend to be very, very humble. I know a lot of the stories that I hear from disciples of Paramahansa Yogananda, who were direct disciples of him, always talk about how humble he was in life. And we hear the same thing, of course, about Jesus and about Buddha once he attained his enlightenment. And a true spiritual master will always discourage the student from putting them on a pedestal or demanding their love or their loyalty. Again, from all the stories that I've heard, about Paramahansa Yogananda, people will say that he would always say, I am not your guru. It's, the divine love is spirit God. He always directed his students, like, don't put me on the pedestal. Direct your attention to the divine love intelligence. So even someone who is a guru, who is a spiritual master, will redirect their disciples' attention to God, not to them. They know that again, they're humble. They don't want to be put on that pedestal. They have no ego. They have transcended their ego. All right, so number 5 for the 5th sign of determining if someone is a true spiritual master or guru is that they have a real verifiable lineage. Now, you might want to you might point out that there are some who have no lineage, and that is true, but that is very, very much the exception to the rule. And so I am making my 5th point here is that in general, we would say that spiritual masters or gurus have a real verifiable lineage that you can actually look back to. They have historical legitimacy behind them. They come from a lineage of realized gurus and have been accountable to a guru or a teacher before them. So here's my example of, again, as you already know, I'm a disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda. So in that lineage of Paramahansa Yogananda, his lineage is Jesus Christ, Bhagavan Krishna, Maha-Avatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Sri Swami Yukteswar, and then it was Paramahansa Yogananda. So Yogananda, his teacher, his direct teacher was Swami Sri Yukteswar. And Swami Sri Yukteswar's direct teacher was Lahiri Mahashaya, and so on. So there is you can look at the verifiable lineage. It's a very safe way to determine if the person that you're working with is a true guru, that they have this verifiable lineage, and that they have worked directly with a true guru before them. Now, there are people who will say, I've received transmission from this such and such lineage, but they've never had that direct transmission. They claim to have received it from reading a book or, divine transmission. I will just say that is probably lip service. You may like me saying that or not, but I wouldn't trust that. In other words, again, my personal experience of having had several spiritual teachers and finding moving on to the last sign that I have to give you of whether or not a person is a true spiritual teacher or a guru is that they focus on the path, not the end goal. So what I mean by that is that a true guru is not going to have you follow them by blind faith. They're not going to just talk and intellectualize and theorize about these spiritual things. They are actually going to teach you through direct experience and knowledge. If you hear, several of the spiritual teachers that I have had the real deep privilege of taking classes from were disciples of Muktananda and lived in the ashram with Muktananda, and you hear all types of stories about the incredible just the incredible way of discipleship and their relationship with their guru. And the one thing in common that I always hear is about this direct experience that he gave them through his wisdom, really, through him being a guru, the destroyer of the light, of the darkness. and he would give them direct transmission and direct experience of God, and so a true teacher is a true spiritual master is going to give you direct experience and knowledge. You do not need to have blind faith and follow just because you're told you have to believe what they're saying. They are going to teach you the path to get there on your own. They're not going to just intellectualize it. They're going to have you do spiritual practice to get there. So again, they focus on the path that you need to take and giving you the experiential knowledge in order to get to that end goal. All right, it's time for question of the day. I'd love to know, what was your biggest takeaway from this video? Let's have a conversation about it. I think it's a really important conversation to have. How do you find a true spiritual guru? Leave an answer in the comments below, and let's start this conversation. Thanks again for joining me. And if you're interested and want to learn more about karma and clearing your karma, I have a 90-minute video. It's an in-depth karma clearing masterclass that I recently taught. Just click the link to watch it in the description below, and you'll get immediate access to that class right now. Bye for now, and take care. Namaste.